Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart. Yes, I'm on camera today. I rarely do this, but I just kind of felt like it this time. If you haven't seen my face before, I usually reserve my face for the live streams. But anyways, we have a lot of exciting Switch 2 news to discuss today. I thought I would just jump on camera and do it more in a quick sort of fun fashion. And really there's a lot to get into. There's been a lot of talk about the pre-order situation. We've seen how the Switch 2 menu looks, how some of the operating system looks. We've seen how the cartridges will be shaped exactly, and I have a little bit of a size comparison to make between the Switch 2 and the Switch 1. So I think we have a decent amount to get into today. Now, before going forward, I will take this moment to point out that I am still aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 launches on June 5th. So if you find yourself enjoying my content, your subscription would be greatly appreciated. So as many of you have likely heard, the pre-order situation here in North America has been a bit tumultuous, confusing. We're not really sure what's going on. Here we had this official news from GameStop of Canada that they would be delaying their Switch 2 pre-orders to align with the pre-orders in the United States. And so initially we had been hearing that the pre-orders would be happening on April 9th. That has not happened. Here we are on April 16th, and still we don't know exactly when the pre-orders will be happening. However, as of yesterday, it looks like we may have a better understanding of what may be going on. So, Bilbo-kun has talked about how it appears that, pre-orders may be opening up in Canada pretty soon. So here, Bilbo-kun says, upcoming release. From what I can see through some Canadian retailers, Nintendo Switch 2 console and bundle pre-orders should start from April 23rd, valid in Canada. Date subject to change, can't confirm if it's the same for US. And Bilbo-kun has been known for getting this kind of information. Sure, you want to call it a rumor for now, that's fine. It is subject to change. Don't believe this full-heartedly, but pre-orders in Canada may indeed be happening on the 23rd. Now, what's also interesting is that we got an update on North America as well from Bilbo-kun just a few hours later. Through some US retailers, I found some conflicting data for pre-order start date of Switch 2 hardware. For Switch 2 consoles, April 21st or April 30th, depending on the retailer. For accessories like Switch 2 Pro Controller, April 30th. A lot of people in other countries have been able to get their pre-orders, and yet here we are in North America, and we're not really sure what's going on. Now, we've had the whole tariff situation that's been occurring, but these additional tariff charges have been postponed for at least a few months here, so the Switch 2 is going to be able to launch, and it won't be a major concern, at least in the immediate future. And so because of this, Nintendo likely had to think of different ways on how they would be bringing in all their consoles to North America. And so given that the United States is such a major market, pre-orders in Canada also had to be delayed so they could see how they would be handling the United States. But it seems like they probably know what they're going to do. Now, interestingly, pre-orders in Japan don't open up until the 24th of April, so I would argue this isn't even really that big of a deal. We've had to wait a couple weeks. It's not that bad, and also the Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct is tomorrow, April 17th. That's going to be a big deal. That is telling us all we need to know about the launch title for Switch 2, and given the price of the game and all the controversy surrounding it, this Direct may be very important to sell people on the game, the launch title for the Switch 2, and so it might make more sense to open up pre-orders after the Mario Kart World Direct, which, if Bilbo-kun is correct, again, we don't know for sure, but if they are, April 21st in the United States and April 23rd in Canada. Now here Nintendo shared a bit of interesting information. According to some GameStop sources, most GameStop stores are expecting 100 Switch 2 consoles available at launch, but games and accessories will be extremely limited. So, if I'm not mistaken, 100 Switch 2s for a GameStop is actually a pretty big number. I remember when the Switch came out, and it was definitely not 100 people that were able to pick up a Switch 1 day one at a single specific GameStop store. So it seems like, yeah, they're definitely putting in a lot out there. And my personal strategy for how I'm going to be handling this, well, one, I have my pre-order through Nintendo. We'll see if that holds up. That's kind of like a backup plan. But the moment the pre-orders open up, I'm going to go to my local GameStop, and I'm going to show up immediately and put in a pre-order there. When I spoke to them, they told me I would have to have at least a $100 down deposit for the Switch 2, so be prepared to put down at least $100, at least here in the United States. I'm not sure if it's different elsewhere. And if that GameStop doesn't work, I'm going to go to all the other GameStops in the area. That's my personal strategy because I like going to GameStop to pick up new consoles. But if that doesn't work, Best Buy, there's a lot of other stores that are great options as well. Now, we have seen how the Switch 2 cartridges look. We know that they're red, but we now see that they do have a notch now. So this is how they will be able to fit differently into the console. This will not work on Switch 1. You won't be able to put a Switch 2 cartridge into your Switch 1. It will not fit because of the notch. You see here for Switch 1, it needs that shape. If it doesn't, well, then you're going to have some issues there. So, kind of neat. I love that it's red, cool color, and yes, apparently, it is still bitter. Don't eat or taste this. That is a terrible idea. We've also gotten to see how the Switch 2 menu screen will look. It looks very much like Switch 1. However, it looks a little bit cleaner. Notice that everything is like rounded edges, so it's a nice softer look, a little bit more elegant looking. There are more options here. And I've also noticed they have this nice little highlighting thing that they do whenever you're highlighting something, when you're selecting one particular thing. It's a nice little touch. It's basically the same thing. It's just a little bit more modern looking, a little bit more elegant, and it is a little bit more pleasing to the eye, I would say. And this also seems to apply to the NSO app as well. We can see all the different NSO games organized here very neatly, which I really appreciate. You can see how you can outline something when you're selecting it. I just really love this all put together here. Very nice. Here we get a look at the online shop, and also here as well, the new Nintendo online user page. Looks good. Moving on, today there's been a fair bit of discussion coming from this interview with a former PlayStation executive, Shuhei Yoshida, who has said some somewhat negative things about the reveal for the Nintendo Switch 2. Reading through the quotes here, to me, it was a bit of a mixed message from Nintendo. In a sense, I think Nintendo is losing their identity, in my opinion. For me, they are always about creating some new experience, like designing hardware and games to create together to create something, an amazing new experience. But Switch 2, as we all anticipated, is a better Switch, right? It's a larger screen, more powerful processor, higher resolution, 4K 120fps. They even had a hardware person starting the stream like other platforms do, right? And because it's a better Switch, the core premise of the whole Switch 2 is we made things better. And that's something other companies have been doing all the time. Of course, it's a more powerful Switch, so it's great if your gaming was only on Nintendo hardware, and it's the first time for you to be able to play amazing games like Elden Ring for the first time. But for us, the core gamers who own multiple hardware and play games on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, the games they showed off, especially from third parties, in theory, it's amazing to have all these all-stars of industry games on Nintendo hardware. However, what they showed was like, oh. So reading through what this person has said about the Switch 2, I don't really agree. Yes, I agree that they are clearly improving upon the Switch 1. Like, yes, this is absolutely an evolution, for sure. That part is objectively true. But this whole premise that they are kind of not really innovating, I don't think that's fair in the slightest, because that's completely glossing over the impact that mouse controls can have. And I would actually argue that one of the biggest innovations for Switch 1 is that it brought in a lot of the different styles of gameplay for your typical console gaming, and they put it into one comfortable place, right? It's a hybrid piece of hardware. You can play in handheld mode, you can play in dock mode, you have tabletop mode, but then it's also the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons can offer so many different ways to play games. It has motion controls, it has dual analog controls, it can do it all. And so being able to fit everything into one spot was innovative. That changed our gaming lives. It's appealed to so many other people because you can play games in so many different ways. It's the most flexible piece of hardware. And yes, the Switch 2 is an evolution of that, but there's still innovation there. So looking at the mouse controls expand on this ability. So playing through Metroid Prime 4, I didn't play it, but when we see people play through Metroid Prime 4, a lot of the impressions we've seen is that the Joy-Cons switch seamlessly between dual analog mode versus mouse control mode. It's a seamless, instant transition. There's no button press needed. There's no menu screen, nothing like that. And I think a lot of people are really underestimating just how big of a deal that actually is. It feeds into how amazing the Switch already is, this flexibility of being able to offer so many different ways to play games. And so many people have talked about how the controls of Metroid Prime 4 in mouse mode, a lot of people don't think they'll play the game in any other way. It's that good. It changes everything. It's fluid, it's precise. It's like playing with a legitimate mouse. And so you've always had the PC Master Race arguing that mouse and keyboard is the superior way to play games, but it hasn't always been the most comfortable thing to do when playing with a console in the living room. But now Nintendo's found a way to bridge that gap. And so they've introduced these mouse controls into the Switch 2. And so you have handheld mode, you have docked mode, but docked mode is now something you can enjoy, not just like with your typical living room TV console experience, but also how you might enjoy some PC gaming as well. And then the screen is bigger, the kickstand is improved. So tabletop mode is also better, where you'll also be able to enjoy those mouse controls with that 120 FPS screen, which, by the way, he also says that 4K 120 FPS was expected. That's a load of baloney. Very few of us thought that 120 FPS would actually be a thing. Yes, there was a rumor, but how many of us truly believed we'd be seeing Metroid Prime 4 running at 120 frames per second? I didn't, and I've been talking at Metroid Prime 4 for years. So they are surprising in ways here, and it's impressive. And also, of course, Nintendo's going to follow up the Switch 1 and improve upon it. It's arguably their greatest success of all time. Looking throughout history, Nintendo has always tried to evolve their prior big, great success. So I don't think this should be any different. And yet, despite that, they are still finding ways to innovate, but without breaking down what they already did. They're simply improving upon it, and in a way that I think might actually bring in more people to play on this system. He kind of implies that third-party games aren't really that great on Switch 2, but hey, from what we've seen of Elden Ring, of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and Hogwarts Legacy, a lot of these experiences might be better than what you would enjoy on a PlayStation 4. Sure, they're not as good as PS5, but they're somewhere in the middle. And if they're also going to have mouse controls, Hogwarts Legacy and Cyberpunk actually have been confirmed to have mouse controls, then for those that prefer that more precise, fluid movement you would have on PC, you can have that on Switch 2. We'll also still be able to play in docked mode, handheld mode, that flexibility, that 120 FPS screen. I don't see how this is a bad thing. It's a fantastic thing, and honestly, I just think this person is throwing shade. That he's a former Sony executive. I just think he's wrong. So, yeah. But now, on to that comparison I was talking about. So, here is what would be the Switch 2 dock. No, I don't actually have a real Switch 2. It's a mock-up, but it's made to look exactly like it. Shape, size, all that. And so, this is how they're going to compare. Switch 2 dock, Switch 1 dock. And as you see, when I put them flushly together, Switch 2 dock is taller. Here's how they look side by side, from behind. So yeah, it's bigger, more rounded. It has more space for that extra fan. So yeah, dock mode's gonna be doing more cool things. And then here is, again, not a real Switch 2, but it's very comparable. You can see the sizes here, how they compare size-wise. Like, it is a lot bigger. Is a lot bigger, for sure. I will also show you the Joy-Cons. There is a little bit of a magnetism there, and how they compare to the Switch 1 Joy-Cons. So, like, you look, like, this is a significant difference in size. It's insane, really. Like, these are tiny little things. It's amazing how much bigger they are, right? And I think that's going to really help for them to feel a lot more comfortable. I mean, that's just a dramatic size difference. So, I'm very excited about actually having the real Switch 2 in not so many days at this point, right? It's coming out June 5th, and hopefully pre-orders can open up next week. So, yeah. man, I'm excited about the Switch 2. Like, these controllers, again, this is just a mock-up, and from the mock-up, it already feels a lot better than how it feels on Switch 1. And so I'm excited to have the real thing in the not-so-distant future. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.